Hello, child development. This week we will be talking about birth defects and some of the dangers in nutrition for a baby and a mother. So, first of all, some facts about birth defects. We have 4,000 known birth defects. Last week when we played our Jeopardy game, we talked about a couple of the different ways that a child might have a birth defect or get a birth defect. You will have time later today and part of tomorrow to explore different types of birth defects. That's the leading one cause of death in children within that first year. So this baby right here you can see has cleft lip. That could be a type of birth defect that someone could explore. A birth defect is an abnormality of structure, function, or body metabolism. So this is a type of inborn error of chemistry that is present at birth that results in the physical or mental disability, or sometimes it could even be fatal. So what causes a birth defect? Excuse me. Genetic and environmental factors. 60% are unknown. We don't really know why there is a birth defect. It's an abnormal gene that can cause a birth defect, and we have about 100,000. So genes determine our traits such as eye color, hair color, height, etc. So can birth defects be prevented? We know that there are several steps that we can take to reduce the risk of having a baby with a birth defect. If we look at the bottom, we can avoid alcohol, drugs, smoking, prescription, over-the-counter medication. We really need to check with that healthcare provider. You should visit your healthcare provider pre-pregnancy to have a checkup. I know we talked last Tuesday that you and your partner should go and have a check before even thinking about getting pregnant, and discuss those openly, especially if you have health problems. We'll get into folic acid today. Taking that multivitamin every single day, about 400 milligrams of B vitamin, folic acid. Some factors that contribute to birth defects: overweight, underweight, if your last birth was less than 12 months ago, if a baby weighs less than half a pound, having 3+ miscarriages or 5+ pregnancies. If you have a stillborn baby, that is a baby who has died from 20 weeks through the due date of birth. Can birth defects be diagnosed before birth? Yes, some of them can. So there are some different prenatal tests that can be taken. We're most familiar with an ultrasound, which is that vibration of ultrasonic frequency. Amniocentesis is a sampling of amniotic fluid to screen for abnormalities in the fetus. Chronic villus sampling, that's a test in early pregnancy to detect congenital abnormalities in the fetus. So that's before birth abnormalities. Sorry, guys. So advances in prenatal. Because we have the rise of technology and scientists are finding more and more information every day, it is possible to treat some of those BDs before birth. So there are 5 different categories of birth defects: malformations that are present at birth, inborn errors of metabolism, blood disorders, chromosomal abnormalities, and prenatal damage. You can see within each of those different categories, there are some examples. So this might be a slide that you might want to look at when starting your project today. Some dangers to the mother and baby. We talked about if you are a teenager, how you are still developing yourself. Obesity can cause some birth defects. You could get gestational diabetes, which if you look right across, That's a diagnosed diabetes during pregnancy. So you might not have diabetes. And then if you're obese, if you're obese, that could be something that happens to you while pregnant is you get diabetes. You could develop a high blood sugar level, that high blood pressure, an increased risk of preeclampsia. If you were underweight, you might have that premature or underweight baby. Diabetes, you can have complications, gestational diabetes, STDs, we talked about that. If you have one, you're likely to transmit that to your baby. Your baby is at a higher risk of a low birth weight, pneumonia, blind, or even might be deaf. Here's a pregnancy risk factors link. You're more than welcome to explore this on your own time. Nutrition. That's the most important requirement during pregnancy. I think we've all seen this My Plate photo up in the right-hand corner where there's fruits, grains, veggies, protein, and dairy. Each meal you have throughout your day should contain all 5 of these categories. The woman's nutrition while pregnant affects a baby's developing brain. Therefore, getting the 6 essential nutrients is important. If you're not familiar with the 6 essential nutrients, I want you to remember people can fool villains with magic. So people would be protein, can would be carbohydrates, fool would be fats, villains would be vitamins, with is water, and magic would be minerals. So we talked about how flaming hot Cheetos are kind of a hot food there. Excuse me. Hot food at Austin. Flaming hot Cheetos do not have those 6 essential nutrients. Therefore, that's affecting that baby's developing brain. Folic acid is a folate. That's a type of vitamin. It helps to prevent birth defects in babies. So let's go through the 5 different categories according to My Plate. You should choose whole grains that contain carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the body's main source of energy. There's sugar, starch, and fiber. Grain, if it says whole grain, that means it contains that whole kernel, and that's the most nutritious. So you really should be eating wheat products, wheat flour, wheat bread, wheat oatmeal. When you see refined flour, that means that parts of those grains are removed, and it also removes part of that fiber, iron, and some of those vitamins. If it says enriched, some of those vitamins and iron have been added back. I think we're more familiar with regular white flour. That's what we use. We use regular white enriched flour more often than we see whole grain or wheat flour. So when you have that folic acid grain, this helps to prevent the baby's defects to the baby's nervous system, reduces that risk of heart disease, and it also keeps the digestive system properly working. Here's some examples of whole grains. I know quinoa diet has been such a big hit lately. Oatmeal and corn. So vegetables. We eat vegetables to help with the mother's heart. It also helps reducing getting those chances of diabetes, high blood pressure, and different types of cancer. It's very rich in potassium and dietary fiber. However, if you increase your fiber, you need to increase your water, or your digestive system kind of goes whack, and you'll have difficulties using the restroom. It's rich in folic acid. Again, folic acid is very important during pregnancy. And vitamins A, C, and E. Or if you remember vegetables, vitamins ACE. Vision, immune, reproduction, healthy skin, bones, and cartilage, and that vitamin E prevents heart disease. Fruits have the same benefits as vegetables. They help to maintain that healthy heart, ensure that your blood vessels are pumping correctly, can help control body weight. They're good sources of potassium, fiber, vitamins A and C. Again, they help with vision and bones. And dairy products. When we think of dairy products, we think of yogurt, cheese, milk, but we don't think of the types. So in this one, we're looking at milk specifically. Milk has calcium, potassium, vitamin D, and protein. Build bones and teeth. It helps to prevent osteoporosis. That's a condition where bones become fragile and break easily. I had a student in my high school that actually had this condition. When we look at milk, we want to choose a low fat or a fat option. High fat milk percentage, like whole milk or 2%, can lead to a greater risk of heart disease. Protein, we think of meat, poultry, which is chicken, fish, dried beans, nuts, and eggs. Those are all sources of protein. This is also vital to the baby's growth and development, especially the baby's bone and teeth. Protein helps keep the mother healthy, and you need more protein now than before when you were not pregnant. Oils. There are 3 types of oils. There are trans fats, and when we think of trans fats, I want you to think of deep fat fried food. That fat on the end of your food product. Those are the worst types. Saturated, we have cooked hamburger, and you see that grease or that fat left over, that is saturated. That fat is okay, but it should really be limited. We shouldn't eat trans fats at all. That's it. Are unfat. This is a liquid at room temperature. They're the most healthiest. If we look at solid fats, it can increase your risk for heart disease. For looking at this sign, this is so that's that lack of folic acid, and it can create an abnormal spinal development in the fetus. However, this can be cured while in the womb. There is a video, I'll have to try to find it and post it, of doctors removing the spina bifida from a child. Looking at vitamins A, B, C, and D, you can see that A helps us with our proper eyes, healthy skin. B assists in general fetal development. C focuses on teeth, gums, and connective tissue. Vitamin D helps with bones and teeth. Minerals. Iron prevents anemia and assists in the developing baby's blood supply. Extra iron is stored in the baby's liver and used after birth. I think that's very interesting that a baby keeps that iron, soaks in all that iron that he or she can, then they store that in the liver and they actually use that after birth. So nutrients, calcium and phosphorus help us produce strong bones, teeth, elimination of waste from the body. These are minerals. So we've talked about foods to eat. However, there are also foods to avoid. You need to avoid polluted water or water with chemicals in them. Foods with pesticide residues. Scrub your fruits and vegetables. That's very important to do. Eating raw or undercooked seafood. So if you like sushi or shrimp or crab or lobster, you will no longer be able to eat that while pregnant. And red meat, so steak. Some personal care. Always make sure you're getting that exercise, even if it's walking. practicing good hygiene, still take showers, brush your teeth, brush your hair, etc. Wear loose and comfortable clothing and make sure to get plenty of rest. I know that was a lot in a small amount of time, but this recording, you can go back and fast forward or listen to a piece that you might still be struggling with. Excuse me. We are going to do the birth defect cube activity. If at any time you need to use a guide, I have a rubric provided. I'll go over the directions in this video, and then I'll create another video that just has the birth defect cube instructions, so you don't need to listen to the whole PowerPoint. If at any time you need to have a referral, remember I have my cube up in that corner of my room by my desk. You're more than willing to take it down. Please do not wreck it. Use it as a source to look at if you are confused. So, information to include. On each of those squares, you will have 6 sheets of paper. Regular paper is 8.5 by 11. You will need to measure. So on that side that's longer, that 11-inch side, you will measure 8.5, draw a line with a ruler, take scissors, and cut that extra chunk off. You should end up with an 8.5 by 8.5 inch square. You need to do this step or this activity will not work, and you will not receive credit. So after you've cut your 6 pieces of paper into 8.5 by 8.5 sheets, I want you to hold on to these. You will need to then look over on this right-hand side. For one piece of paper, you will have the title, birth defects. I want your name, your hour, if you are an Austin or a Packer. Your resources. We will do resources. This is a research project. If you look down here at this resources, if you have 5+ resources, you will get an A on this assignment. If you have 4 resources, you will get a B. 3 resources, you will have a C. 2 and under, you will fail this project. It will need to be done in APA format. I know that some of you might not be familiar with that formatting, so I left this link, easybib.com. You can use that to help generate that APA format. Okay, back over to this side. Again, you have 6 sheets of paper that should be 8.5 by 8.5. For one of those pieces of paper, you can make a title page, birth defects, your name, your hour. If you're an Austin or a Packer, you will need to write all 5 resources on this piece of paper. Next, we can see that we have the malformation birth defect, inborn error of metabolism, blood disorders, chromosomal abnormalities, and prenatal damage. If you need to, go back to this slide, the types of birth defects. There are different types in each one of these categories. So let's just say for this example, we're going to do spina bifida, PKU, sickle cell, Down syndrome, and we're going to find a prenatal damage that is done when using drugs. So we will come over to our directions. We know what we're doing for each of those 5 categories. We will write on this 8.5 by 8.5 cube the definition, the symptoms, the causes, and you can draw a picture or print a photo for each category. I want you to title it first, malformation birth defect. Underneath, that's where you will put that actual birth defect that you are exploring. Then put the definition, causes, symptoms, and draw your photo. Be creative. You will need to do that for each one of these. When assembling your cube, if we look up in this corner up here, you will take an 8.5 by 8.5 sheet of paper. Your words will be facing out. You will match up one side to the other and take a stapler. I want you to do 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the side cubes, and you will need to staple the sides first. The bottom, I want to be that 6, that prenatal damage. So then you will have to flip it, put that on the bottom. The title, birth defects, name, our Austin or Packers. I want that on the top. We will hang these up on the ceiling when I return back to school, and you can't really see the top. Let me see if I can share my desktop with you. Okay. So my screen should be shared. That EasyBib website, easybib.com, you will choose, is it a website that you're looking at, a book, or a journal? If you go to the Mayo Clinic website, they do a really good job of explaining the different birth defects. So I typed in Down syndrome. You can see right here, there's the symptoms and causes. Read this overview, please. That will explain what is Down syndrome. Then the different symptoms, intellectual disabilities, when to see a doctor, causes, is it inherited, the different risk factors, the different complications that someone with Down syndrome might have, life expectancy, etc. So if I wanted to use this website at Mayo Clinic, I will copy this whole entire link, go to my EasyBib tab. I went to a website. I will paste, hit search, and there's my website. So I will click Site. And it might say, here's what we'll need your help with. So the publisher sponsor. Click on this. Let's see. The Mayo Foundation for Medical and Research. This is what I want. That is my publisher. We will hit continue. It tells me my article title, the contributors. Perfect. Then we will hit complete citation. It might make us watch a video. We're just gonna click.
In volatile markets, clients turn to you. Turn to us for resources and tools, insights to help manage for the long term. Materials to keep clients on track and programs to help your business thrive. MFS, committed to advisors for a century.
Okay, you might have to watch an ad for access. Click I'm done. And here is my section. I will copy citation. Okay, or you will have to write this by hand. You need to write this whole entire section of yellow. That's the whole entire APA format. You will write that down. All right, I want to show one more section, the rubric. So I listed a materials list. You'll need 6 sheets of plain paper, a ruler, scissors, markers, crayons, or colored pencils, however you want to make it creative. Directions. First, we're going to gather 6 sheets of paper. We're going to measure on that long side, 8.5 and 8.5. It's easier if you measure on both of the sides. Take a ruler, match the 2 lines, draw the line, cut with scissors. You should end up with 6 scissors. And there are 5 categories of birth defects that you will explore. Pick 1 birth defect per category. So if we have malformation birth defect, I will write on the top of my paper, malformation birth defect. Then I will go explore a birth defect in the malformation category. I will also rate that and recognition, symptoms, causes, photo, or drawing. I will do that for each one of these 5 categories. Then I will put the information on the sheet. So first, gather 6 sheets of paper, measure 8.5 by 8.5, look at these 5 categories, pick 1 birth defect within those categories. Then you will begin to put that information on the paper. You will have the definition, symptom, causes, and a photo for each one. Assembling, again, this is important. You will staple 4 birth defects together, and that will be the outside of your cube. It should be a square to begin with no top or bottom. It might be flimsy, and that's okay. Next, you will assemble either the last birth defect or your name. Your name will go on the top. You will have the name, date, hour, if you're a Packer or in Austin, and all of those resources in APA format on the top. The last category will go on the bottom. This stapling the top and the bottom is kind of awkward. It's not going to look like it's going to work at first, but I promise it will. Again, we will hang these up in class when I get back. Refer to the PowerPoint on the last slide for any clarification or the video that's been provided. 5 resources equals an A, 4 a B, 3 a C, 2 and under an F. Use that APA formatter, EasyBib. Here's the rubric. So we're going to just look at this 4 category all the way down. You've completed all the categories: malformation, inborn error, blood disorder, chromosomal abnormalities, prenatal damage. All of your content is present and well organized. You have the definition, cause, and symptoms on each one of those sections. All of your sentences, if you are making sentences, are complete and begin with capital letters. If you look at my cube, I did mine in bullet points, and that is okay. Make sure that you have proper punctuation on there. The cube is done neatly and legible. Photos or drawings are included for each one of those categories. So there are 5 categories. There should be, 5 drawings or 5 photos. Your content was clearly communicated and all components were present. You could read down the 3, 2, 1 categories as well. I will either print these off when I get back and grade them, or I will do a digital copy and send it to you. This rubric is available online. I hope that this helps you. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You will have the remainder of this class period to brainstorm and work through. I ask that nobody does the categories that I have on my cube. Nobody will do the 5 that I did. I want you to explore different ones, please. So when I get back and I grade, if you did Down syndrome or sickle cell anemia, you will be getting docked points. I want you to explore outside of what I've already explored. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I can't wait to get back and see you all soon.